Audi Q3 has been right at the core of Audi India's SUV lineup in terms of its popularity. It gives you that typical Audi brand of luxury with its compact size and an approachable price point relatively. Although you haven't been able to buy one in India for over 2 years now, and this one, the second generation Q3, has been on sale globally for about 4 years now. Anyway, the second generation Q3 is finally here in India now. So today we're going to tell you how it's improved over the last version. Now the easiest way to recognize the second generation Q3 is from the way it looks from the front. So it's much more of an SUV kind of look now. That crossover-ish shape from earlier is no longer there. And that's because of the links, the more direct links that Audi has drawn between this small Q3 to the larger Q7 and the Q8. And you notice this with the kink shape of the headlamp and the segmented LED DRLs. And then when you come to the middle, you notice that really large, big Audi grille. It's the new look, so to speak, with these slats and these chrome vertical sort of adornments. And that sense carries on with these sort of brushed aluminum finishes. They sort of brighten up the face, as you can see over here, and also the bumper. It's got these very intricate sort of details to it with these cuts and ridges, which really help to bring that SUV quotient up. The Audi Q3 in this guise is 96 mm longer, 18 mm wider, and 5 mm shorter than before. From the side, the glasshouse is simple but functional, and that SUV character is further defined by the more prominent creases on the fenders and rear haunches. This brings the Q3 closer to the Q5 in a sense, although we would have liked to have seen a sharper, dual-tone design for the 18-inch wheels. At the rear, the two-part LED tail lamps are quite attractive with their intricate detailing. We also like the crisp integration of this with the raked but fairly simple boot lid. Also, there's some of that nice silver accenting from the front repeated here as well, around the ornamental exhaust tips. Now the added length of the new Q3 has added a significant 70 litres to the boot space. It's now 530 litres. And in this top technology variant, you get this convenient power function. And the boot itself, it's a large square space, quite useful. The sill is quite low, so you can easily lift up a suitcase. Although the floor, there is a bit of a load lip, but you can lift up the floor a bit, so it becomes flatter. But you get a space saver spare wheel, which means that the floor itself of the boot is kind of slanted, so a big suitcase may just slide down to the end. Of course, you can expand it to 1500 litres, although sadly there's no function to do it from within the boot. You have to go inside and then pull the latches to then fold the second row of seats, which is a bit convenient, but otherwise generally it's a much more useful space now, the boot of the new Q3. Now you notice this shift to this more modular MQB architecture the minute you step inside the new Q3. It's a far more airier, more spacious place to spend time in, and that's helped by the general layout and design. Again, it draws very direct cues from SUVs like the e-tron and the Q8 in terms of this crisp, sharp-edged sort of technical sort of design that you see here. Having said that, it doesn't quite have the wow factor of, say, a Mercedes GLA in terms of the colors and materials that have been used. But like always, like how you always expect with an Audi, the level of quality, the level of fit and finish is absolutely top-notch. Now here's something that we really like about the way Audi has designed the center stack of the Q3. Now you know that dual screen layout that you find in larger Audis like the Q7, which we don't really like because it puts these climate controls on another screen. Thankfully here you have these, again, very crisp, very tactile, these damped AC buttons, which are very satisfying, very tactile to use. You have hard redundancies for pretty much all the functions that you would need, like this drive select, the start stop and the traction button, all of them, especially the volume button that also has, you know, a physical redundancy. And again, this 10.1-inch MMI screen, we've always liked it. We've liked how intuitive and clear the menus are. So that continues as it is. If anything, the panels which house these could have looked less bare and had fewer blank switches. But you get a large wireless charging pad, as well as thoughtful storage spaces in the center console, even if the door pockets could have been a touch larger. And that sort of extends also to this virtual cockpit that Audi has pioneered. So it's, again, there's nothing to fault in this. You get a few usable menus, You get a lot of information crisply and clearly. Although the lack of wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, along with branded speakers, is a miss. Now the new Q3 has a 77mm longer wheelbase, and that has solved what was possibly the biggest flaw in the last car. So as you can see now, the interior, the back seat is much more usable, much more comfortable for at least 2 adults. And yes, while the entry, the ingress egress isn't quite as good, the opening isn't too large, but once you're inside, the amount of knee, leg and of course headroom is great, much improved from earlier. But here's the kicker, here's what really takes it right to the top of its segment in terms of space here, the Q3. You get a massive 150mm of travel for the rear seat, and you can also recline it to quite a comfortable angle. So if you like being chauffeured around, then the Q3 is a viable choice finally. But yes, again, the third passenger, there's really not much for them. These extended seat squabs which give you so much underside support, which also means that the third passenger, already compromised by this very high central tunnel, will not be very comfortable considering how these squabs jut out on each side. You even have a cutout in the headliner to improve headroom, but sadly the left-hand drive orientation puts it on the wrong side for India. You get 6 airbags and the usual crop of passive safety features, but lesser Skoda-VW offerings as well as rivals do better on this count. We expected to see up to 8 airbags and some level of ADAS functions. There's also only a single rear camera which is limited by a grainy feed. Of course, you have the assurance of a 5-star NCAP rating. As with the entire Audi range in India, the new Q3 is now a petrol-only offering being powered by the 2-litre turbo petrol, as seen in the Q2 and other Skoda-VW offerings, putting out 190 PS and 320 Nm, which pairs with a 7-speed DCT. A notable differentiator though is that the Q3 comes standard with quattro all-wheel drive, unlike many rivals. Now we've become quite familiar with this 2-litre motor, and it performs in much the same way in all the other applications that we've driven it in as it does here. Now this isn't the most refined of these type of engines, so yeah, in the city we wouldn't really recommend driving in the lowest efficiency mode. It just sort of dulls the whole experience down. The comfort mode is the one you should be in for the most amount of time. It gives you that, that seamless performance, that sense of just moving along with the traffic, that sense of ease that you so really want in a luxury car such as this one. And yes, the DCT gearbox, again at lower speeds there isn't any of that jerkiness or that hesitation that we've complained of in the past. All that has been dialed out, so none of that is there. Although under hard accelerations, say when you want an overtake in traffic, you do notice that it takes some time to kick down, which we don't like all that much. But generally, if you're just ambling along on your daily commute, the Q3 will go about its business very calmly, very efficiently, so it's a stress-free car in that sense. Now where the Q3 really comes into its own, where you get that full potent performance, is when you switch it into S mode, put the gearbox in the S mode too. Now the engine is really on the boil. The DCT makes sure that you're always in the power band, as we are right now. And you notice that there is a very linear, very consistent serving of power, which is very helpful, especially when you are on road. Now in the city, at lower speeds, we don't really like the way the Q3 handles low speed potholes and bumps. Even now at the steady pace, you do hear those thuds in the cabin. And on a rough stretch of road, that does get irritating after a point. But having said that, once you picked up speed, once you are on the move and up and going, the ride really settles down. There's a sense of poise, there's a sense of control that you find typically in Audis, and that's fully intact here too. So as you can see on this winding stretch of road 2, that translates into you just sort of going along seamlessly, smoothly. Yes, the Q3 isn't the most engaging car to drive in this segment, but with the quattro all-wheel drive system, you do get the sense of control, the sense of poise again, that is really quite nice, that's really quite reassuring. Now as for the steering, we would have liked maybe a touch more feel, maybe a touch more, in terms of precision and directness, it's fine, it's about what you would expect from an Audi, but maybe just a bit more feedback to make you feel just that little bit more connected, which say the smaller Q2 does a bit better. It's of course a lighter car, but in terms of how that car shrinks around you, of course the Q3 doesn't do it, it's slightly larger. In that sense it feels more like Q5, but which again might be a good thing for a large section of buyers. You get that sense of driving a bigger car without actually being in one. Prices for the new Audi Q3 start from rupees 44.89 lakh for the Premium Plus. But it's this technology trim that you really want, which happens to be at the higher reaches of the segment at over rupees 50 lakh. Yes, the Q3 could have been a couple of lakhs less expensive considering you miss out on a diesel engine and safety equipment, even though you do get that quattro all-wheel drive system. In any case, the new Q3 is a significant improvement over the last generation, and it's an SUV that is spacious, well made, and one that feels like a luxury car should from behind the wheel.